Hey y'all, welcome to another powerful, brand new story. I really hope you love it, and if you do, make sure to join the fam by hitting that subscribe button and dropping a comment to let us know where you're watching from. Let's dive in.
The city was cold that morning, gray skies above and puddles below as Logan Carter stepped out of his black town car in front of the Grand Halston Hotel. The Billionaire CEO had just wrapped a major overseas merger and was expected to head straight to the press conference inside. But something, or rather someone, stopped him in his tracks. Across the street, near the edge of the sidewalk, a woman sat under a torn blanket. Her brown coat was soaked, hair clinging to her face. But it wasn't the woman alone that made Logan freeze. 3 small children huddled beside her, their faces pale, their jackets too thin for the cold. 1 girl, 2 boys, maybe 6 years old. And when the woman turned her head toward him, everything around him disappeared. Rachel Bennett. His Rachel. The woman he had loved before the boardrooms, before the private jets, before the world started calling him the Iron Visionary. She looked older now, worn down by life, but he'd know those eyes anywhere. Hazel, like autumn leaves in sunlight. And on her hand, she still wore the ring he had given her 10 years ago. He stepped forward instinctively, not caring that his assistant was calling after him. "Rachel?" His voice cracked. She flinched, then slowly looked up, as if she'd heard a ghost. "Logan?" she whispered, her lips trembling. He knelt beside her, heart thudding. "Is it really you?" The children huddled closer to her. One of the boys looked up at Logan, and the breath left his lungs. The jawline, the dark brown eyes. The same exact shade he saw in the mirror every morning. "My God!" he murmured, his voice shaking. "They're mine, aren't they?" Rachel pulled the kids close. "Logan, not here. Please!" The press was starting to gather. Cameras clicked from across the street. He reached into his coat and pulled out a card. "Come to my penthouse. Top floor. Halston Hotel. Ask for me. Please, Rachel. We need to talk." She looked down, ashamed. But she nodded. Logan stood and turned away, every step back to the hotel lobby heavier than the last. He didn't attend the press conference. Instead, he waited. 2 hours later, a knock came at the door. Rachel stepped in with the children, now wrapped in dry clothes courtesy of hotel staff. Logan had cleared the entire suite. No assistants. No cameras. Just them. "I never wanted it to be like this," she said softly. "Then why?" His voice was hoarse. "Why did you disappear without a word?" She hesitated, brushing hair from Emma's face. "You chose your career, Logan. You were gone more than you were home. And then when I found out I was pregnant, I couldn't compete with your world. You didn't even tell me." "I tried." Her voice cracked. "I wrote letters. Called your assistant. You were in Tokyo. Then Paris. Then Dubai. Always chasing something. I thought maybe it was better this way. That I'd just be a distraction to the man you wanted to become." Logan swallowed hard. "Rachel, they're my children. You kept them from me. And I hate myself for that every day." He turned to the kids. Jack and Ben were quietly watching him, while Emma clung to Rachel's side. "I want to be part of their lives," he said quietly. "Please." Rachel looked away. "They barely know what a normal day feels like. We've slept in shelters, eaten from church kitchens. I didn't want this for them, Logan. I tried. God, I tried." He crossed the room and knelt in front of the kids. "Hi. I'm Logan. Can I get to know you?" Jack looked at him, hesitant. "Are you a king or something?" Logan chuckled, eyes stinging. "No, but I used to wish I was." Rachel stepped closer, her voice softer. "They deserve better than the life I gave them. And they'll get it," he said, standing. "All of you will. But not as a handout. I'm not here to throw money at the problem." She raised an eyebrow. "Then what are you here for?" to bring my family home. Rachel's lips trembled. She looked down at the ring again, tarnished, but still there. You really mean that? I never stopped loving you, he said simply. The room was quiet. Then Rachel took a step toward him and whispered, We'll stay the night. But that's all I can promise for now. Logan nodded, trying to keep the emotion from breaking him. That's enough. For now. That night, Logan stood in the doorway of the guest suite. Jack and Ben were asleep, arms wrapped around each other. Emma clung to her mother, finally resting peacefully. Rachel looked up at him. I used to dream about you coming to find us, she said softly. But then I stopped believing in dreams. Then believe in me, he replied. She didn't answer. But she didn't ask him to leave, either. And that gave Logan Carter hope for the first time in years. Morning sunlight poured through the penthouse windows, casting golden light on everything it touched. For a brief moment, Rachel Bennett felt like she had woken from a terrible dream. The soft mattress beneath her. Warmth. Silence. No sirens, no shouting, no cold. But then she sat up and remembered. Logan. The children. This new, strange reality. She walked into the kitchen where Logan stood in a pressed shirt, sleeves rolled, pouring juice into 3 small cups. You didn't have to do all this, she murmured. He turned, smiling faintly. It's nothing. You're CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. You shouldn't be wiping sticky cereal off counters. I've missed a lot of things I should have done. His voice held a quiet regret. Maybe I start fixing that now. Rachel folded her arms, uncertain. And after breakfast? What then? We go back to sleeping under bridges while you go back to boardrooms? Logan shook his head. No. I meant what I said last night. I'm not letting you disappear again. You don't get to make decisions for us, she said firmly. He met her gaze. Then let me make a request, not a decision. She blinked. Come stay with me. Not here in the hotel, at my place. Just for a week. Let the kids have some stability. Hot showers. A warm bed. School if they want it. No cameras. No media. Rachel hesitated. And after the week? You decide, he said. But I'll fight like hell to make you want to stay. She opened her mouth, but no words came. The weight of the past 10 years pressed hard on her shoulders. Pride, pain, survival, they all warred inside her. But then she looked over at Jack, Ben, and Emma giggling at the breakfast table, their cheeks pink and eyes bright. Maybe, just maybe, they deserved this chance. All right, she said quietly. 1 week. Logan's estate outside the city wasn't what Rachel expected. Sure, it was grand, vaulted ceilings, glass walls, a massive garden, but it wasn't cold. It felt like someone had built it to be lived in, not just shown off. The kids explored every corner, their joy uncontainable. Logan gave them a tour himself, crouching down to their level, showing them secret nooks and hidden doorways. Rachel stood back and watched him with them, her heart in conflict. Why now? She asked later that night, as they sat on the terrace beneath the stars. Logan didn't pretend not to understand. Because I never stopped loving you. Because I missed a decade of their lives. Because the second I saw that ring again, I knew I had a second chance, and I'd be a fool to waste it. Rachel looked away. You don't know how hard it was. The nights I went hungry so they could eat. The winter I wrapped Emma in newspaper because I couldn't afford a blanket. I know I can't erase that. But I can change what comes next. She looked at him. I'm scared, Logan. So am I, he said. But I'm more scared of losing you again. On the 3rd day, the past came knocking. A tabloid had published a grainy photo of Logan kneeling in front of Rachel and the kids on the rainy street. The headline read, Carter's hidden family? Reporters staked out the gates. Drones hovered above the estate. Rumors swirled. Rachel froze when she saw the article. This is why I didn't tell you. I didn't want them to grow up under a spotlight. Logan was already on the phone, his voice hard. No statements. No interviews. I'll handle it. But Rachel wasn't reassured. They'll dig into everything. They'll find my record, shoplifting from a pharmacy when Emma had a fever. They'll find the shelters, the eviction notices. Logan put his hands gently on her shoulders. Then let them. You did what you had to. You kept them alive. That's what matters. Tears welled in her eyes. I was just trying to be their mother. And you were, he whispered. You are. The strongest woman I've ever known. On the 5th day, something shifted. Jack and Ben were in the backyard, learning to ride bikes with Logan by their side. Emma was inside helping the cook make cupcakes. Rachel stood by the window, watching them all. Her heart ached in the most unfamiliar way, not from loss, but from hope. Later that evening, Logan brought out a box. Inside was an old, worn-down journal. You left this in my apartment 10 years ago, he said. I kept it. Rachel flipped through the pages, her handwriting a raw reflection of dreams once real. Then she reached a page she hadn't remembered writing. A letter unfinished. If you ever read this, Logan, I hope you know I loved you. I hope you remember our quiet nights. Our laughter. The way you used to brush the hair from my eyes. I hope you don't hate me for leaving. I just didn't know how to stay. She stared at the words, her fingers trembling. I never hated you, Logan said gently. I hated myself for not seeing the signs, for not chasing you sooner. Their eyes met. And in that fragile silence, the past began to lose its grip. A week passed. Then two. What began as a temporary arrangement slowly transformed into something deeper. The children settled in like roots growing into soil, their laughter echoing through the mansion's long halls. Emma adopted the garden as her kingdom, tending to flowers with the same care Rachel once gave her during her sickest nights. Jack and Ben became inseparable from Logan, following him like shadows, their bond growing with every shared story, every tossed football, every lesson in bravery. Rachel had never known such stillness in her chest. For the first time in years, survival wasn't her only mission. She allowed herself to breathe. And yet, one night as she sat on the back porch with Logan, a haunting thought returned. What happens if they decide I'm not fit to raise them? She asked quietly. What if someone tries to say I was neglectful all those years just because we were homeless? Logan sat beside her, their hands brushing. No one's taking those kids from you, Rachel. You're their mother. You saved them over and over again. There's nothing stronger than that. But you have power. Money. Influence. What if people think you'd be a better parent on paper? Logan turned to face her fully. If there's anything I've learned since you came back into my life, it's that paper doesn't mean a damn thing. You raised them while I sat in boardrooms. I don't want to take them from you. I want to raise them with you. If you'll let me. Rachel's heart thudded. She studied his face. There were new lines at the edges of his eyes. A deeper sadness he'd carried all these years. But behind it was love, raw, steady, and terrifyingly real. I never stopped loving you, he said. And I don't want to spend the rest of my life wondering what if. Rachel swallowed hard. Then stopped wondering. She leaned in, her lips brushing his, gently, uncertainly, until the kiss deepened into something more familiar, more certain. A week later, Logan took Rachel and the kids on a quiet trip to a lake house in Vermont. No media. No business. Just them. One chilly morning, as fog rose from the glassy surface of the lake, he asked her to walk with him down the wooden dock. She wore one of his sweaters. Her hair was tied back, her cheeks rosy from the cold. At the end of the dock, Logan turned to her. Remember when I told you I'd fight to make you stay? She smiled. You didn't have to fight very hard. He pulled a small box from his coat pocket and opened it. Inside was a simple gold band. Not flashy. Not enormous. Just real. This time, he said softly, I'm not asking for a promise of forever. I'm asking for now. For us. For the kids. For the mornings, the messes, the bedtime stories, the fears, the laughter. Will you marry me, Rachel? Again. Rachel stared down at the ring, tears filling her eyes. She held out her hand. Put it on. His fingers trembled as he slid the ring over hers. The very same finger that had worn the ring he gave her 10 years ago. That one still sat in her pocket, kept safe all these years. A reminder of what they once had. But this one? This was a promise of what they could have again. The kids, watching from the porch, let out a cheer. Emma ran into Rachel's arms, wrapping herself around her waist. Jack and Ben tackled Logan in celebration. It was imperfect. It was beautiful. It was theirs. Months passed. Rachel stood behind a podium at a local community event. Logan seated proudly in the front row with their children. She spoke with conviction about the realities of homelessness, about how one storm, one missed paycheck, one tragedy could change everything. She wasn't asking for pity. She was asking for action. Her words moved the room. She had lived what she preached. And now, with Logan's foundation, she helped fund shelters, schools, and job training programs for single mothers trying to rebuild. She was no longer invisible. She was a voice. A force. A mother. A wife. A survivor. One evening, as they stood in the nursery they'd built for Emma, filled with stars on the ceiling and shelves of books, Rachel reached into a drawer and pulled out the original ring Logan had given her long ago. I want to give this to her someday, she said, running her thumb over the worn gold. She'll treasure it, Logan whispered. It's part of the story. Rachel leaned into him. So are you. He wrapped his arms around her, holding her tightly. They stood in silence, watching their children sleep peacefully in the rooms down the hall. The nightmare had ended. The pain, the fear, the loneliness, they would never vanish entirely. But now they had something stronger. They had each other.